let's just cut the crap, okay? Jasmine Crockett is not a leader. And the rejection that she just caught from her Democrat overlords proves it. She's a Marxist-minded, melanated puppet. Yes, I said it. And the hands that are pulling the strings, it's a bunch of freak, nasty, diddy-crap billionaires that use black faces to protect white liberal power. So if you're a Democrat and you think that your vote matters more than their money, yeah, you've already been played, because this is not politics. This is something else. What you need to understand is that Democrats don't pick black leaders. They purchase them. And the price, sometimes it don't even cost that much, but usually the silence is the price, because they're silent on faith, family, education, safety, and especially silent on economic freedom. So Jasmine Crockett, she isn't serving her community. She's serving the donor class. And you are about to listen to her tell you herself who she's in bed with. You're not watching representation. You're watching a political slave auction funded by dark money and sealed with a whole lot of betrayal. So welcome to the new era of plantation management. And guess who's the product? You are. Coming up next on Unshakable with April Chapman. Let's get into it. Welcome to Unshakable with April Chapman, where we discuss all things social, cultural, political, and theological from a biblical perspective. I'm your host, April Chapman, and it's about time that we stop sipping on the Kool-Aid that these darn Democrats keep pouring, and instead, it is time that we actually analyze what the heck is in it. So today, we're going to be tackling something that should have been exposed years ago. Recently, a Democrat she just decided to say it out loud. And it wasn't just any Democrat. It was the Democrat darling. Well, kind of, sort of, but not really. It was everyone's favorite DNC sock puppet in an ugly lace front wig. Actually, she got a new wig this time, but she still got the caterpillar lashes. It was none other than Jasmine Crockett. Yes, the Texas lace front butterfly lash bandit herself got up in front of a camera during a press conference and admitted without shame, without a stutter, that dark money is how the Democrats plan to stay in power. Like, she said it, and I said, oh, wow, she really said this out loud. Now, she's able to say this not because it's what Democrats plan to do. No, dark money is how she got elected, and it's been their plan for the last few years. They've been doing this already. This is why, no matter how unpopular those Diddycrat ideas and policies are, Democrats will not abandon them, because one, they have to push whatever their freak nasty Diddycrat donor class wants them to push. So they love them some dark money, and they love dark money more than they love this country. So listen to Jasmine tell you herself in her own words about her plans. Take a listen.
So I got news for them. As they sit up here and think that they're about to win, let me tell you, they are playing the game known as the biggest loser. And the biggest one sits in the White House, and baby, the baby loser right here is down there below them. They will lose, because the people are speaking out and they are showing up. It is the same reason the Republicans don't want to go into their districts and talk to the people, because they know that their policies are loser policies. They are losers. I'm going to tell you, if it's one group of people that's not going to lose, it is going to be us, because we are going to fight this every step of the way. And so I want to thank those governors that have already made it clear that if you want to fight fire with fire, we got something for you. So thank you to Gavin Newsom, who said, play with Texas if you want to, because we can play with California. I thank you to the governor in New Jersey who said it's not necessarily off the table. I thank you to any Democratic governor who has tried to be fair with the lines that they have drawn. But right now, fairness is not anything that this administration is familiar with. The law isn't anything that this administration is familiar with. The only thing that they know how to do is be crooked, draw crooked lines, and tell crooked lies. So I am here to tell you that if you think that you can just roll over the Democrats, it is a new day. And I am looking forward to making sure that we can respond in kind if they want to play, because we already know that our lines are already jacked up. I already gave you the numbers. You can play with them more if you want to. But just know I'm going to spend every waking day until now, between now and November, to make sure that not only these new seats that you try to draw, if that's what you try to do, that we win those seats, but maybe it's time for us to take some other seats that are sitting up here right now, because they're not doing their jobs anyway. So just know I will not rest, because this is not what democracy looks like. We also know that there are donors that I'm sure are going to be willing to make sure that they are investing and making sure that they can take down some of these candidates, since they don't want to rule out dark money. I'm sure some dark money gonna pour in on the behalf of the American people. So what I am saying is every tactic, as well as making sure we're touching people.
Well, isn't that interesting? Notice how Jasmine didn't mention the people. Not the people, not the principles, not the policies. She just mentioned the money, dark money at that. Now, most people, if they heard that, most people heard that and shrugged. You probably heard it and didn't really think that much about it. But I've been doing a considerable amount of content on Jasmine Crockett, and I'm thoroughly committed to waking up as many people as possible. Because in my opinion, this woman is just evil and sinister, and her shenanigans and her policies are just trash. This woman is in support of open borders and illegal immigration. She is all in with the trans agenda, and her allegiance is to the rainbow cult. She absolutely despises school choice, and nothing would make her more happy than higher taxes and more government regulation, because all of that for her translates to more money, and at the end of the day, the American people end up suffering. But let's talk about why Jasmine was even at this podium in the first place. This was a press conference, and it was supposed to be about Texas redistricting. Now, this is the same redistricting that Crockett once claimed was racist. I mean, as you know, for a Democrat, everything is racist because they use that as their get out of jail free card because their policies are trash. But she cried and ranted about the maps and how unfair they were. And guess what? Trump was like, yes, I agree. Trump redrew the maps back then in her favor. But now, all of a sudden, the new lines, they don't work for her party anymore. Suddenly, it's back to being racist again. And it's amazing how that works. It's funny because racism is just magical to these people. It just has this magical way of impacting things that it didn't impact before, and then all of a sudden it becomes racist. But that's not even the kicker. Right in the middle of all of the fake outrage, Jasmine had what I like to call a slip of the spirit moment. The mask came off, and she straight up said that they are depending on dark money to fight back. And she claimed, like, I don't know why she thinks the American people need dark money to fight on their behalf, but she mentioned it. And she said it like it was no big deal. I mean, she was proud. She said this like it was noble, like billionaire money from God knows where, just pouring into Texas politics on behalf of the people. She says this like this is somehow just and right. But let me make it plain. What Jasmine revealed wasn't strategy. It was a confession. It was a confession that the fix is in, and we're not ruling it out, because when push comes to shove, we always have our fallback. We got to rely on the dark money to manipulate outcomes of elections in our favor. That's typically what we see happen in Democrat politics. But let's go a little deeper. I want you to take a listen to the alternative to Jasmine Crockett. It's actually Mr. Sheldon Daniels. Take a listen to this clip.
Here to react is Sheldon Daniels, the Republican Texas congressional candidate who is trying to unseat Crockett. He's also an Army vet and an attorney. Sheldon, great to see you. I know you've looked at every aspect of her career and her background, but she really wants to come across as someone who's kind of streetwise and almost at certain instances like she's from the street. But what's the truth here?
The truth is that is the farthest thing from the truth. Jasmine comes from a world that no little girl anywhere in our congressional district is going to have an opportunity to grow up and experience the same thing. We don't have schools in our district that cost $45,000, $55,000 per year to attend. And so it's weird that, she claims to fight for the people when clearly all she's fighting for is the donor class and for herself. She doesn't represent the people of TX30. People are aware of that. And that's why she's trying to rebrand and try to find her footing right now, because she's losing a lot of the support back here at home.
Well, Sheldon, Crockett has said a lot of kind of nutty things. We played a few tonight. But some of her comments, these comments, might be the craziest. Watch this.
I consistently say that Texas is actually blue. We are. People look at me like I'm crazy. California, demographically, looks more like Texas than, say, Louisiana or Mississippi. People in the state of California have access to the ballot box. They are not engaging in voter suppression.
Sheldon, as a Texas voter, perhaps you can illuminate for us what this voter suppression is she's talking about in the great state of Texas. Sorry, the blue state of Texas, with Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick and, of course, Greg Abbott, the governor. The blue state.
Texas is a conservative state. We will remain a conservative state. But, under Texas law, I think it's Section 3, Article 28 of the Texas Constitution, our state legislature is allowed to redistrict our districts and precincts based on population changes. And what has happened is, over the past 30 years, and even here recently especially, the population and the demographics in our district particularly have shifted to the point where even the county at the local level, they're splitting some of our voting precincts up because there's just too many people, too many active voters. You can only have 5,000 per voting precinct. And so, to get to the point, though, this thing is completely legal. The Democrats have done it in the past. I think that what's happening...
Yeah, so for her redistricting, so for everyone watching, she basically is claiming that it's some type of Voting Rights Act violation to redistrict. I mean, Democrats do this every chance they get. I mean, it's just like, pot kettle here. I mean, come on.
Article 3, Section 28 of the Texas Constitution. If you're at home, Google that on your phone right now. It's plain as day. And this is why people are unimpressed with Jasmine Crockett, because she's a licensed attorney. She's supposed to be so accomplished. But the law, whether it's in respect to illegal immigration or, in this case, the state legislature being able to legally redraw the lines based on population shifts, it's right there, plain as day. Well, and it's sad that she goes out.
I would like, Sheldon, I just like all the people in Texas watching. Imagine if you had Jasmine Crockett as your governor or lieutenant governor, okay? Imagine the glorious state of Texas under those situations. Sheldon, we wish you the best. Yeah, a total nightmare.
Now, I've had the pleasure of having Mr. Daniels on the show. It was an amazing interview. I am rooting for him because, y'all, he is such a breath of fresh air that Congress needs. But in that clip, he told you about who Crockett aligns herself with. She is a George Soros puppet, or should I say Alex Soros puppet, because it's now Generation Soros 2.0 that we're dealing with. But she's already demonstrated that she will sell out what's best for America in favor of some dark money. Now, let me be clear about something. The reason why Crockett is such a problem is because she is incredibly ineffective at her job. She introduces no meaningful legislation to improve the lives of the people that she claims to represent. And her ghetto theatrics on the world stage is simply embarrassing. And for someone who literally, like this woman literally grew up with a silver spoon in her mouth, she does cry a lot about victimhood and oppression when this woman hasn't a clue about what it feels like to be oppressed. And so I wanted you guys to see that clip, because in that clip, Sheldon makes it painstakingly clear that this redistricting that has happened, it's legal and it always happens. And the last time it happens, it just so happened to be in the Democrats' favor. But like Democrats, they always use the race card and racism and civil rights and, this is voter suppression, as opposed to educating their constituents to say this is actually normal and it's based on demographics. And because we have more people in the state now, we've got to redo this to make it more fair. Now, just because the melanated Marxist-minded marionettes of the Democrat Party are always crying about being helpless and victims, it does not mean that you have to believe them. So, for example, I am absolutely in favor of calling out the donor class. Like her making this statement about dark money, we needed to highlight it because it was a dry snitch. She came out and said the quiet part out loud. And so I am in agreement that we should absolutely demand accountability. But make no mistake, the idea that she's some sort of victim and that the people in her district are helpless, that is not true. The people who voted for this matriarchal miscreant, they are not helpless because they could have easily, and they have the opportunity now to vote her out and vote for Sheldon Daniels instead. But when it comes to Jasmine's rhetoric, I am tired of the perpetual victimhood and the plantation pity party. I mean, it's a never-ending saga of woe is me and this is racist and we can't get ahead and we can't do this and we can't do that. I mean, we don't need another round of black tears on TV begging for scraps from the same corrupt table that we should have flipped years ago. So what I'd like to present to you is that we need two things. One, we need repentance, and two, we need responsibility. And it bothers me, and I hate that this current generation, they live some of the most privileged lives, and they lived under some of the most privileged conditions in our nation's history. But for some reason, they walk around trying to see who can be the biggest victim. And then on top of that, when I see Christians doing it, people who resonate and align themselves with Jasmine Crockett, calling themselves victims, and they claim the name of Christ, but they like her at the same time, I don't see how the two are even compatible. And it really makes me upset. And the thing is, I can see how the pagans can be this way. But the idea of listening to someone like Jasmine Crockett extol the virtues of victimhood and tell you, or trying to constantly remind you about how much of a victim you are, victimhood is not biblical. Okay? It's not biblical. It's not empowering. And thinking that way is not going to help save your community at all. For the Christian, Jesus ransomed those who believe in him from the penalty and power of sin. So if you are a Christian, how you're able to listen to someone like Jasmine Crockett and then walk away believing that you are a victim, those two worldviews are incompatible. There's this verse that I want to read to you guys from Romans 8. As soon as I can get this open, from Romans 8, and I think it's 8 verse 37. And it reads, "In all these things, we are more than conquerors through him who loved us." When I read that, my question is, how do you square Romans 8:37 with a perpetual victim narrative? Like, how does that work? How do those two things go together? They don't. So Jasmine spouts this mindless and baseless rhetoric. She does it because she's evil. Yes, I do believe she is fostering and ushering in a very evil and wicked agenda. She's being used as a tool of Satan to steal, kill, and destroy. And sadly, she's doing it to people that look like her, not just to everyday Americans at large. And do you want to know what, though? The way she's able to do this is because she uses your affinity and idolatry of skin color to lure you into the trap. That's how they all get you. They use the very thing that sits on the seat of your heart, your ethnicity, or whatever affinity group that you tend to be a group of. When they talk in these constructs and categories, That's how they're able to deceive you. And so my message is simple. Stop allowing these Democrats to treat you as a pawn in their wicked globalist scheme. This is not about you and your local communities being strengthened and flourishing. No, this is part of a larger globalist scheme. And stop allowing these Democrats to treat you like you're their property. Right? You don't belong to them. They don't own you, even though I know Democrats can't help it. They love slaves. So they really do believe that they own you. But stop believing that you are a victim and that you are powerless. Focus your time and attention on building a strong and stable family. Spend time developing good moral character. And most of all, stop looking to the government as your God. I was watching another YouTube channel the other day, and they also covered this story about Jasmine talking about the dark money. And one of the gripes that they had with Jasmine Crockett was that she hadn't done enough to push reparations as cash payments. And when I listened to that, it made me so sad because they were right to disavow the disingenuous charade and caricature known as Jasmine Crockett. But the fact that there are still people who think that reparations is the fix or the answer to their problems. And I've talked extensively about reparations. In fact, I actually got another video queued up, 3 reasons why reparations is never going to happen. But before I drop that, the idea that that is going to be the answer to your problems, if you believe that, you've already accepted the lie that the government is your God, and you're waiting for this godlike, miraculous rain down from heaven of money that you believe that you were owed to you, and all the while you are wasting precious time, energy, and resources on something that's never going to happen when you could be doing something else. Like you could be actually building and growing in character and raising a family and just doing something else way more productive. So let's talk about what real power looks like, particularly these people in Jasmine Crockett's district. Their power is not going to come from the government. Okay, it's not going to come from the government, the dark money, from George Soros. It don't even come from a grant or a panel or some woke infested nonprofit. Real power starts in your home. Right? When you are focused on and you're putting God first and leading with your faith, focusing on your family and developing pathways and opportunities of ownership, if you want to disrupt the donor class, stop needing them and focus on those things instead. You can easily start a business instead of begging a politician. Right? And those of us who have been concerned about the public education system, you need to be making moves to where you can homeschool your kids or come up with another way to get them out of these government funded indoctrination centers. We could also be doing things like building our own media that doesn't depend on leftist ad dollars. That's why platforms like this matter. My company, Standard House Media, I decided I don't need to rely on the left to do something for me, and I don't need to rely on what many would be considered the mainstream to speak for me. I use my voice and build my own media platform to disseminate the message that's valuable to me. Our churches, if we spend time planting churches that preach repentance and the truth of the gospel of Christ, as opposed to us lending credibility and finding ourselves partnering with churches who have pastors who identify with rainbow theology and the gospel of self and whose men are just absent. No, raise up men who protect and lead instead of march and whine. Like, you have to disavow the Jasmine Crockett, Jamal Bryant types, and you have to find better, more biblically sound, culturally rooted examples instead. And so we don't need symbolism. We need things that are of much more substance. And that's going to come from doing some really hard things, building, teaching, working, protecting, speaking the truth even when it's unpopular. Those are the hard things that actually need to be done that can turn the tide and the trajectory of this country around. But definitely, I'm tired of hearing people say, we need a seat at the table. I'm like, listen, we don't need a seat at their table. We need to flip the table and build one that honors God, leading in truth, and that protects and builds a legacy. Because at the end of the day, when you no longer depend on them, you can no longer be controlled by them. I told y'all, Democrats are masters looking for slaves, and you need to refuse to be a slave looking for a master. So, as I close, if this episode struck a nerve with you, then good. I hope it struck a nerve. That means that your conscience is still working. But I am curious to know, what do you guys think? Are you shocked to hear Jasmine Crockett admit that she and her Democrat colleagues plan to use dark money to win their election? Or are you just relieved that the truth is coming out? Or you might be of the opinion that, there's nothing wrong with dark money. Hey, the more the merrier. Whichever side of this discussion you land on, I would love to hear from you. So I need you to do a few things for me. I need you to share this episode with someone who still thinks that Jasmine Crockett is for the people, right? Because you got to reach them. I need you to hit the like button, subscribe, leave me a comment. I want to know your thoughts on this story. And then also, if you are ready to partner with me in building content that exposes the lies and lifts up the truth, I recently started a Patreon. Join my Patreon. The link is down in the description box below. And that's all from me today, folks. Until next time, I want you to stay bold, stay biblical, and above all else, stay unshakable. Grace and peace.